Welcome to this lesson dedicated to one of the most beautiful pieces ever written for piano and one of the most mysterious ones, because this fantasy in D minor was actually not ended by the composer, and the ending part that we have at the end of the piece was composed presumably by August Eberhard Müller, the editor, who was publishing the piece. And most of piano players use this ending, and only a few actually create their own endings. If I'm not mistaken, I think Mitsuko Uchida is one from those who have composed their own version of the ending. Let's start from the entrance. And we will be speaking about how to memorize this piece faster and also how to interpret it, and on the way resolving some technical difficulties, the most typical ones. So from the very beginning, what we have to do here is just to recognize the chord progression in order to remember it right away. So in the first two bars we have just a D minor pattern. In bar 3-4 we have this beautiful chord. We have basically G minor, inverted G minor in the left hand, and a similar chord but with E in the right hand. Yeah, G, B flat, E, G. Altogether, it is just a second scale degree seventh chord, E, G, B flat, D, half diminished seventh chord. Yeah, and in bars 5-6 we have suddenly an inverted dominant seventh chord towards G minor, yeah? But very dark because we have the seventh tone of it in bass. And then we have a series of suspended chords in bar 7. So G minor suspended, F major suspended, yeah? So this upper note is just a suspension, and then we come to a harmonic note, yeah? Yeah, you see F major, E flat major, and then a diminished chord. Yeah, so you can simplify it at first and play just chords like that, skipping those passing notes, those suspended notes. And finally we come to A major. And in bar 10, it's also easy to learn because we have to keep in mind harmonic sounds of A major, like that. So keep in mind those sounds, and then you just play always the neighbor note of E, neighbor note of C sharp, neighbor note of A, and so on. Just make sure to stop when you reach that A, and that's it. So basically a very simple chord progression. So at first we play just chords like that, one chord per bar. I really suggest you to play it like that, so you would quickly recognize those patterns on the keyboard and quickly recognize those chords. And then, of course, interpretation of this section is a quite tricky thing, actually, because it seems very easy, but when you start playing it and trying to interpret it, of course, you have many questions. Well, you're supposed to have many questions. There is an interesting video on YouTube that compares a few different versions, like 8 or 10 different interpretations. It's called How to Play or Not to Play the Entrance of Mozart Fantasia in D minor. You can find it on YouTube. It's quite viral. It has a lot of views, so should be easy to find. And there you have a comparison how differently people actually play this movement. Some of those versions are very interesting, some of those are like rather dubious, but my personal version is to start the first bar with a little bit more darkish color, and second bar like an echo, softer, third bar stronger, fourth bar echo, and then fifth bar even softer, because we suddenly get to that darkish chord, and you can even change pedal like gradually between these two bars in order to make it like half blurred a bit. And then crescendo all the way through. More attention towards suspended notes, and this is the most tense harmony. So we lead all the way here, and then just unexpectedly lose intention here on that cosmic, mysterious A major chord. Of course, when we get to the bar 10, we make sure that dissonant notes are gently more intensive than harmonic notes. So you think basically in pairs, like phrasing them as we usually do with melodic seconds, playing the second note softer. But of course, then you don't do that too much. You don't do that too evidently. But nevertheless, important to avoid accents on harmonic notes. Otherwise, it might sound a bit too straightforward and too amateurish. Yes. Then what is important to notice here is, of course, andante and alla breve, because some performers experiment with extremely slow tempos. Like, for example, Gilel's version stands out for its like really monumentally slow tempo, which is a very interesting experiment. However, if you are not on a level of Gilels, which is most probably you don't if you watch this video, this might be a bit tricky because it's very easy to sound like vertical note per note, thus boring. That's why at first I would suggest you to work on this section in a rather fluid tempo, feeling the bar in two. So you feel like 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, and so on. Yeah, so you feel that broad pulsation in two and you feel that flow. Later on, of course, you can decrease the tempo and find a balance, like playing it a little bit calmer. But I would suggest you to start actually a little bit like in a more fluid tempo, just in order to feel that flow. And then another very interesting thing is a syncopated second beat. 1, pam, pa. And then the rest, yeah? So the second beat has some extra importance here. That's why I also would suggest you to practice a little bit exaggerating that flow, that tension, that gravity toward the second beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then 3, 4. Lighter, yeah. That would give you an idea about another hidden dimension of this piece, and also might help you to sound a little bit more interesting, more grasping attention, let's say. Then, of course, you diminish that. You don't really proclaim that second beat, but you kind of just feel it. You feel a little bit like that tide, that stream toward the second beat, which helps you to move also through the bar better. Not getting stuck, not sounding vertical. And then, of course, more attention on the suspended notes in bars 7 and 8. And listening to the slurred notes, to the longer notes, especially when they cause some dissonances, like, for example, the most beautiful one at the end of bar 8. Listening to E flat and listening to that hidden dissonance here before we move further. That's a very interesting spot. All that needs like kind of micro rubato. For example, or leading it all the way through. And then what I would do, I would release eighth notes and change the pedal on the second beat, holding the fifth finger. That would make it sound more classical, yeah, because in most of cases we hear some kind of romanticized interpretations where people use pedal like a ketchup, like for the whole bar, tons of ketchup, and then you just don't feel the taste of food, yeah, because there's so much ketchup around. But if you change the pedal on the second beat, maybe very smoothly, but nevertheless, it may sound a little bit more classical, more in style. And then we move to the main theme. So here we will move in sections. So next section will be from bar 12 to bar 19. Here also, at first, I would suggest you to play the left hand, gathering all these sounds in a chord. So just play the chord progression. D minor. Then bar 13. You can play also notes in the right hand on the first beat in order to better understand what kind of chord you have. So in bar 13 we have our dominant 7th chord, A major 7th, yeah? So this is our harmony for the bar 13. For bar 13, then bar 14, same chord, just different inversions, A major 7th, and back to D minor in bar 15. And then D minor, diminished 7th. For such chords, you gather everything in one place, like B flat goes here. So you would visualize that chord, you would understand what kind of chord is that. This is our diminished 7th chord. Same thing, yeah? This is the same chord. We just use not all sounds of it, but this is the same chord as this one, yeah? And then we have a chord progression. Here also you stop when you reach the harmonic note. So A is a passing note, and then you reach G sharp, which is harmonic note. And this is just a E major 7th chord, which is dominant towards A major. But here we have an ellipsis, so we resolve not in A major, not towards A major, but towards A major 7th, like that. So basically, this is what happens here. And then D major, and then diminished chord towards A major that comes in bar 19, yeah? So at first, just sorting out the harmonic skeleton, playing essential stuff. This helps tremendously to visualize the music, to understand the harmonic progression, and to learn it faster. As soon as we are done with it, we start working on music. So here are not so many technical tasks, technical goals, but nevertheless, it's quite challenging, because we have quite a few notes, but they should sound absolutely mesmerizing. So how do we do that? At first, let's start working from left hand. So we play left hand, differentiating 2 layers. The bass layer, we always lean towards bass notes, feeling support in the bottom of the key, in the bed of the key. And the arm is free and relaxed. Yes, we have to be able to move around while holding that note, and make sure that other fingers are absolutely relaxed, like that. And at first play that with a little bit more embodied sound. Don't run after the softest possible dynamics at first. At first make it comfortable and well grounded, tension free. And then for these chords, we use not just fingers but also the forearm. Yeah? So we use gravity and rotation in order to play the thirds. And you support your thumb a little bit more, yeah? So you hit the 5th finger, free up the hand, and then more weight goes toward the thumb. So the thumb has priority. It's a bit louder than F. But nevertheless, hitting both notes as simultaneously as possible. It might be not always perfect, that's fine, especially if you play on a not perfectly regulated piano or some E piano. It might be difficult to make them sound together, but you just do your best and don't be too hard on yourself. like that. And then we try to differentiate those two layers. So bass a bit louder, more support. And these thirds lighter. I would suggest you to first practice without the left pedal. Just enjoy a moderately subtle sound. Yeah? You can also play it like mezzo piano, even mezzo forte. If you feel tension, you have to practice first like mezzo forte, supporting yourself properly, and then gradually decrease in dynamics. Yeah, so it's always the same algorithm. Whenever you feel yourself uncomfortable, you at first play mezzo forte, grounding yourself properly, developing necessary reflexes, and then gradually decrease the volume, nevertheless preserving comfortable sensations. And in the right hand, we make it more luminous, so it should fly over our landscape that we have in the left hand. That's why when we add left hand, we hit keys with a little bit more energy, using gravity also. Then regarding articulation here on bar 12, there are many ways to play it. Some pianists just don't bother and play it all through, like with pedal, like that, just changing pedal after each sound. Some pianists play non-legato in the left hand, like that, and legato like that in the right hand. I personally prefer an opposite version, playing these chords pedaled, so they create this kind of sound pillow for the melody. But in the melody, I prefer to separate these notes, which might be a little bit tricky, but you can manage it, I believe, in you. So what happens here, I hold the left hand a little bit longer, and I change pedal after releasing the right hand. So release the finger, press pedal. Play the next note, release the pedal and the finger, press pedal. Like that. Press pedal, press pedal, press pedal. Yeah, so you press pedal right before changing the chord, while your right hand plays a bit shorter. This gives it a very classical sound, but nevertheless not too dry, not too formal. That's why I really like this version, although it needs playing around with the pedal a little bit and getting used to that concept of switching pedal after releasing the right hand, but before releasing the left hand. If you want to keep working on this piece, please follow the link in the description where I explain it in detail.